Hello, this is South King, and you're welcome to South King TV. Today, I'm going to be talking about migration between Africa and Europe. I know there are people migrating from other parts of the world, like from Asia or North America to Europe or America, or the United States, I mean. But I want to focus on migration between Africa and Europe. I want to do so because when you watch news channels in Europe and in America, the way they talk about Africans moving to Europe or America is in a very negative light. The problem here is, if we go back to history, we will notice that Europeans, when they needed money, when they needed to build their economy, they moved to other part of the world. Not only they did move to other part of the world, but they colonized, they enslaved, and they stole. They stole expensive items, expensive traditional items and religious items, which are up to today in 2023 being exposed in Europe in their big museums and other part of the world that they take and travel to. And they still make money from these things. And today in 2023, they want to make us feel like migration is a huge problem for them, their economy, and their existence. They keep on saying that on news channels. Like, for example, you guys heard about what Britain is trying to do to take asylum seekers from Britain and go with them, I think, in Rwanda. So, first off, that is an insult to Africa. And the most funny thing even is just that there's always one African leader who is very stupid. Like, Britain will take asylum seekers from Britain and go put them in Africa, and they have to check their asylum status in Africa there. And like what I heard, like even if you're granted asylum, you have to go through your asylum period there in Rwanda, not in the UK. Like, he could send those asylum seekers to Poland, he could send them to the United States, he could send them to Japan, but no, I'm going to send them to Africa because Africa is our toilet where we can do what we want. Anyway, coming back to the main topic, which is migration. So when you watch many news channels, they keep on showing migrants coming to Europe, and what they want is their population to feel like, oh, too many people are coming to Europe. It's going to be over for us. We're going to die and stuff like that. And those things are not true. I'm saying so because even in Cyprus, it's the same thing. Like, the media and the politicians keep pushing their asylum or the migration issue a lot in front to cover their own political aim, to cover their political images, and to give their people a reason to not blame them, but to blame those who are coming in their country, legally or illegally. So let me take the case of Cameroon, for example. When the war in Cameroon started in 2017, I was still in Cameroon then, Nigeria, which is our neighbor, took about 25,000 refugees, people fleeing war. In the space of 3 months, 25,000. Nigeria is an upcoming economy. It's not a big economy.
Some of us are suffering. If you see the shelter we live, you will cry for us. We are on pains, brothers. You can see we are real on pains. We don't have anywhere to cook. As now, right now, rain is falling. We have nowhere to cook. We are just perishing ourselves in such places. In fact, we are real on pains, brothers.
This lady is just one among thousands of Cameroonians at the Adagom refugee settlement, Cross River State, Nigeria. Her story is not far different from all those who now seek refuge out of the comfort of their homes.
Can you imagine 25,000 people traveling to Cyprus from Cameroon? Can you imagine 25,000 people traveling from Cameroon to the UK seeking for protection? So what the international media never talks about is that African countries, they receive a lot of people fleeing war, fleeing many things in Africa. All they show is the boats coming to Europe. All they show is people wanting to live in Europe. No, many people want to live in Africa. Just like in the times of slavery, colonization, and things like that, Europe up to today still has like a great grip in African politics, African economy, and so they know what is happening in Africa. But since their national interest is still very much important than the well-being of Africans, they keep on dealing with dictators. For example, like the one we have in Cameroon, who has been in power for 40 years. Can you imagine that from 2017 to 2023, because the war is still ongoing in Cameroon, thousands of Cameroonians, civilians of course, died in the hands of their government. Many were arbitrarily kept in prison. They are still in prison today. Many were shot. But you know what? Emmanuel Macron, who is like, France is the boss of the European Union, still went on to Cameroon in an official visit to visit Paul Biya. And then when I see what is happening with Ukraine and Russia, like France helping Ukraine to fight Russia, I feel like here there is a double standard in terms of whose life is important, who they are dealing with. Many developed well left Russia in terms of business, political, and stuff like that, and relationship wise. But the war in Cameroon, I think only America was really in the forefront in terms of criticizing the Cameroonian government for killing its own people. Nobody did nothing. Many Cameroonians thought, oh, the United Kingdom is going to come in and help, since, well, us Anglophones in Cameroon were colonized by the British. So we thought like, okay, because we are being killed by our government, the British will come in and they will help. But nobody did anything. Instead, Emmanuel Macron went to Cameroon and visited Paul Biya just like nothing happened. But there are many people who are in prison innocently. There are many people who have been killed. No Cameroonian military, nobody has ever been held accountable, be it by the African Union, the European Union, be it by any international law of human rights or whatsoever. Nothing has happened. Now they are surprised that Cameroonians are fleeing their countries to come to Europe. Yeah, they are surprised. They act like they're surprised, like, oh yeah, so they're coming and stuff. Like, they're always at the tail end to just say they are coming. Nobody really cares about why they are coming, because if you ask me, not only Cameroonians, many Africans will want to go back. I mean, even those who are established in Europe or have European nationalities, they would love to go back to Africa and develop. I'm one of those persons that if things are right for me today, I'm going back to Cameroon, because I am intelligent enough to know that instead of complaining, I'm struggling to go live somewhere in Europe which is already developed. We have to go back to our continent and build it up. But my problem is, when we talk about migration, we forget to first, let me be logical in what I'm saying so you don't get confused. First, many Africans travel within Africa. Africa has a population of 1 point something billion people. Majority of those 1 point something billion people are still living in Africa. See, for example, like Sudan. The war in Sudan now has many Sudanese fleeing and living in the neighboring countries. I've not seen a group of Sudanese coming to Europe yet. But if the situation doesn't change, those countries hosting the Sudanese are not rich countries, they are poor countries. And so those who have the means to come to Europe, whether Europe likes it or not, whether Europe build bridges or not, those people will come to Europe. Why? Because Europe and America, and in short, the developed world has about 80% of the world's riches. So what do you expect? Like the Cameroonians who fled to Nigeria, after a period of time, they had severe problems with famine. So I remember some of you who are Cameroonians or Nigerians, maybe you saw the video, but I think in Cameroon, the video went viral where Cameroonians could not eat. They would go and work in farms in Nigeria to try to get some little food. And when they had the chance for somebody to come deliver raw rice, not cooked rice, people will fight for the bag of rice. And, it was just so funny to me. Like our country, Cameroon has enough food for people, but people are fighting for rice to just eat some little thing with their family. If I stay in Nigeria for long and I know like the Nigerian government cannot take care of me and I cannot have many things there, and if I have some money to travel out of Nigeria to go to somewhere else, and I'm gonna go. So, but then, even though the war in Cameroon was very serious, 1 million people were displaced internally, meaning that some people left the war zone to other part of Cameroon where there were no war. That's more than the majority of Cameroonians stayed in Cameroon. Few left Cameroon and went to other places. But what the media wants to show in Europe is just people coming. The media never shows the role that Europeans play in Africa in terms of holding dictators, in terms of not being fair in human rights, in terms of not being fair even in the economic negotiations they have with African countries. So in Cyprus, it's the same thing. The Cypriot politicians and the Cypriot government always want to make us understand like too many people are coming to Cyprus and things like that. Okay, yeah, I know Cyprus is not a big country like Germany, but what they never also say is um, Cyprus is the least country which gives nationality to third country nationals. So they always talk like, okay, Cyprus is the first country in Europe with proportionate to its population with number of migrants or asylum seekers, but they never say we give less papers or nationalities as compared to other parts of Europe. So there's a certain narrative that these guys they want to put out there, which for me I think it's not fair for people who are going through a lot, for people who have to flee because they have to flee. Be it, like Europe and other part of the world, they really want you to flee and come to their country and say, yeah, it's because I'm afraid of my life. They don't want to hear like it's because of economic difficulties. Now there is the issue of climate change. Climate change is going to cause a lot of people to be in poverty. A lot of people are going to go through difficulties. And many will have to flee Africa. Many will have to flee other parts of the world to go to where they think they are safe. So what are we doing? See, like of the climate change I'm talking about. Africa pollutes the least. Europe, America, China, they pollute the most, but it's going to affect people in Africa. And so what do you want us to do? When the floods come, the droughts come, what do you expect us to do? So I think like the media, the politicians in Europe, if they really want change, they know what they have to do. Go back to Africa, be fair, don't have double standard when it comes to human rights, don't have double standard when it comes to economic negotiations, because the way you negotiate with other part of the world is very different from the way you negotiate with Africa. There are many things that you guys have to abolish, help the African economy. Don't deal with dictators, don't deal with people who shoot, just like you did with Russia. It means if you can do it to Russia, which is a big economy, you can do it to Burundi, you can do it to Cameroon. What are you guys doing with Pobia? Why nobody has sanctioned Cameroonian government? No military has been sanctioned so far, though they have killed a lot of civilians. So what I'm trying to say with this video is, Europe, instead of sitting and crying and trying to make your population feel like Africans or people from other part of the world are coming to invade Europe. We are not you guys. Like, you guys came to Africa, invaded, did slavery and everything you did there. We don't want to come and invade you. I came to Europe because I believe in democracy and for certain things that my country does not offer me. And I want to live in a place where I can really speak out my mind. Like in Cameroon, I'm a political activist. I cannot speak out my mind in my own country as freely as I can do when I'm in Europe. So if we can fix on certain things, many people, including myself, are willing to go back to Africa today and start building the continent. So you know the part you have to play. Don't bullshit us. Go ahead and fix what you have to fix. we shall go back to our country, and you will not see boats. That's why you see British people will not take boats to go to America. It's easy for them. Ukrainians didn't have to take boats to go to other part of the world. Everybody accepted them. Many people don't accept us. We have to take boats. We have to pass through the beaches. It's a fact. If somebody is dying, the person needs a solution. The person will try to get that solution regardless. You know what you have to fix, go ahead and fix it. Thank you.